Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you all here for the third installment of our Caring with Melanie series. Hopefully you heard our other two sessions, and today we're excited to be talking about brushing teeth, which is so important. I can't wait to see how Melanie's going to brush the teeth of her Pokemon friend today. Um, for those of you that haven't joined us before, Dementia Alliance is a North Carolina-based 501c3 organization who provides support, education, resources, and promotes research for people living with dementia and their loved ones. Our goal is to provide the best quality of care that we can for everyone who's impacted by dementia. And we have with us our nurse trainer, Melanie Bunn. And Melanie teaches over 200 different kinds of training sessions every year. We decided probably more this year. And she is an internationally known trainer, and we are so blessed to have her right here in North Carolina. And we did want to thank Capital Financial Solutions for being our primary sponsor on this and helping make this happen. And Melanie, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to have as much time as we can.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be with you. This is really a great opportunity to kind of explore in more depth than I get to when I'm doing a conference or when I'm doing a workshop. And I have to talk about, all different kinds of things. The idea of just really kind of focusing in on one topic and then that can kind of translate into so many different issues. So brushing teeth is something that is typically one of the things that gets kind of left to the side. It's one of the things that if you're having a rough day or if things aren't going well, we tend to kind of push it to the side for people living with dementia. And it's really a critically important thing for life and for health. So I'm going to ask people just to start by putting things in the chat or putting things in the kind of maybe in the chat would be best. Lisa might prefer that. If somebody has something that they think is important about brushing teeth, specifically for people living with dementia. So just going to ask people to kind of do that. So what are some of the, why is it, if it's really hard, why is it really important to do? So chat seems to be a little sluggish today. To prevent cavities is something. So for all of those reasons why we all brush our teeth, to prevent cavities. Even more importantly than that, sometimes for older people, to stop infection is another one. For overall health, so we know it's a foundation for overall health. So we know that the healthier your mouth is, the healthier your brain and your body is. That infections are often kind of initiating here in this part of our body. Things like pneumonia that older people living with dementia and people living with dementia who aren't older, pneumonias and things like that are often increased in risk because of what's going on in people's mouths. Things like gum health and things like what we talked about last week. So things like appetite and nutrition are often really linked to what your mouth feels like. So if you wake up in the morning and you really have a morning breath, you wake up in the morning, you've really got morning breath. Are you really excited to go try that really beautiful new breakfast that somebody's made for you? Or do you kind of feel like you would enjoy it more if your mouth was cleaner? And for most of us, we would enjoy it more if we could taste the food instead of smelling and tasting morning breath. So it really is better. The other one up there, that someone added is for relationships and social, because if someone's breath is really bad, being intimate with them, and not meaning sexually, but just being close enough with them to really be connected is often not something you want to go for. So many of us probably have horror stories of dating somebody who had really bad breath, or going out to eat Italian and on that date and then really not wanting to smooch because of that mouth. And it's true for people living with dementia that we want to be close with them, but something about us, if they don't smell good, just kind of keeps us at a little bit of an arm's distance. And the last thing we need for people living with dementia is more distance. We actually need to be together and to be closer. So let's begin to explore, now that we've kind of established the why it's important to have good mouth care and good um, oral care. Let's talk about why it's difficult. So I'm going to ask you to put, again, in the chat, put some reasons why you think it's hard to manage brushing teeth for people living with dementia. Why are some of the challenges, some of the obstacles, some of the things that why it's hard. So someone put, it's a highly sensitive area and it's very sensitive. And that's really true because we have a lot of nerve endings in this part of our body. And for people living with dementia, when when the neurons are farther apart, we get really focused on the parts of the brain, the parts of the body that are very rich with nerve endings. And so there are four of them. This is an area that's got lots of nerve endings. So people living with dementia tend to be very interested in exploring things and interacting with things and manipulating things. Lots of nerve endings here. Lots of nerve endings in the soles of your feet. So that's why people like to walk a lot, especially barefoot, like to walk a lot. Third part of your body, genitalia. We're not going into that one today. But the fourth one is mouth, lips, and tongues. Tons of nerve endings there. And so it's really sensitive. And so it might mean I like a lot of input there. So it might mean I put a lot of things in my mouth, but it might also be I don't really want those things coming at my mouth. I don't want things that don't belong there, that feel intrusive or invasive. It's very sensitive. It's hypersensitive. I respond very well to it, or very intensely to it. I have really intense responses to it. So looking at some of the other things, and it's awkward, and it's hard to get to all of those areas. It's really physically, skill-wise, a complicated process. It's really difficult to do. It seems scary to the person. We tend to, not only are there a lot of nerve endings, this is a part of our body that we are evolutionarily wired to try to really protect. You know, if a bug flies at your foot, you might not even notice it. If a bug flies at your shoulder, you might kind of look, but if a bug flies at your face, you get a big startle. It feels invasive, intrusive, dangerous, and risky. To have something coming at your face, they can't, it's hard to see what you're doing. It's dark in there. I mean, it is dark in there. There's a reason why dentists have all these cool, invasive surgical kinds of lights up there. It's dark in there. It's hard to see. They don't want to brush, and maybe they've never liked to brush, or maybe it's really the sensory experience, or maybe it really feels weird because no matter how skilled we are, how hard we try, it's hard to do it the way people like to do it. And sometimes people don't open their mouths, or they'll push it out with their tongue. And that can truly be a reflex of pushing that thing out. Instead of the chewing and swallowing can be and expelling it. And that can really be the response of a primitive reflex kind of thing. So that's why it's important. We know it's important, but it's hard to do. So let's start building some thoughts about if it's hard to do, why it's worth it. So why is it worth it? And how can we do it? We've done why it's worth it, why it's hard to do. So now let's start working on what we can do. So what can you control? We did this slide before. We're going to have this as a theme. Things about the person, things about our approach, things about the environment. So with dental care, like with eating and like with, the other things we've worked on, it's starting with what's usual for people and remembering that it might be what's usual for now, but it might also be what's usual from before. So let's talk about some of these things, about tools, about when, about where, and about how. So have any of you changed your way of brushing your teeth over the past 20 years? Thinking about tools. So and you can, you've got a reaction down there. You can put your thumb up if you've changed the way you do it, or you can wave at me, put your thumb up if you're in person, or you can put yes in the chat. Have you started trying an electric toothbrush instead of the toothbrush that you maybe grew up using? Have you maybe started using a toothbrush that's shaped a little differently than the toothbrushes you grew up using? It's maybe some of you grew up or for years and years and years used a hard bristle toothbrush. And then you were told what you really need is this soft bristle toothbrush. And when you're first getting used to it, it feels like mush in your mouth. That can't possibly be doing any good. There's no scrubbing going on there. So really thinking about what tools are going to feel good and comfortable and make sense for people living with dementia. An electric toothbrush is if you've ever used one, it makes your teeth feel so clean. It makes your mouth feel so clean, but it's also hard to get used because you don't scrub with it. You kind of let the toothbrush do the work. And so you don't actually scrub with that toothbrush. So it not only feels different, the way it moves in your mouth is different, and it's also really seems like a dentist drill. It's noisy, and it's noisy right up close to your face and your ears, so it can be really scary. So thinking about what kinds of tools is this person used to using, and that might be something even as simple as what is the flavor of toothpaste. So have you ever had the experience where you spent the night at a friend's house or you're traveling and your toothbrush, your toothpaste burst in your little travel bag, and so you have to use the hotel brand of toothpaste, or something is on sale and it's not your brand, but it's a really good price and you've got a coupon. So you decide to try something different, or somebody says, this is the new, expensive, bright, wonderful thing. You should try this. Or you get a sample from the dentist office. And just that different flavor makes it kind of a distracting, yucky kind of experience. So that idea of, it's not working for me. So what kind of toothbrush, what kind of toothpaste, what kind of dental floss has the person really been using? And that seems familiar, because what we're really going for is an experience that feels the most familiar to that person living with dementia. So what feels comfortable and familiar? So that's a little bit to think about when it comes to tools. So take a moment and just think about the tools that the person is using. What of them might be familiar? What of them might not be familiar? Because the next piece we're going to move on to is, when do you brush your teeth? Now, almost everybody I know who brushes their teeth in the morning. So if you brush your teeth in the morning, show me a thumbs up or a clap or an applaud or something. Yeah. So yeah, so that's really good. So I'm going to go back and address a couple of these questions in just a minute. Maybe I should go ahead and do it. So one of the questions is getting the person to spitting out the toothpaste, not wanting her to swallow it. Does it really matter if we swallow toothpaste? It kind of depends on how much you use, because we really shouldn't be swallowing lots and lots of toothpaste multiple times a day. But the truth is, the majority of us use way too much toothpaste, because what you really should be using is a dot that's about the size of a pea. So the commercials or the ads or the photographs that have the toothpaste, going, in this, it's this rich. It's not even just across. It like loops around and comes around, and it's like this undulating mass of toothpaste. You know who does that? Who makes those ads? People who are selling toothpaste. You know how much toothpaste they want you to use? A lot of toothpaste. They want you to use and truthfully, a lot of toothpaste gets more than our teeth. It makes our mouth feel good. So a lot of us like that sense of using a lot of but truthfully, we really don't need but a tiny bit, a little bitty pea-size amount of toothpaste is what we need. And this comes from one of the smartest dental hygienists I know. She works with UNC on a lot of research. She works with Duke on a lot of research. Her name is Pat, and she's brilliant. I mean, she is the go-to person. She studies all this stuff. She stays on top of it. She researches it, and it's really a tiny, tiny little bit that people use. The other options include things like using toothpaste that's kind of made to be swallowed. And that would include some of the kids, the toothpaste that are marketed specifically to children. There's some, if you go and look at some of the websites that are marketed towards people with developmental disabilities, sometimes they have some really good. I found toothpaste there one time that had not a bubble gum flavor or a candy flavor or a sweet flavor, but actually had a spearminty minty flavor that was didn't have fluoride, was able to be swallowed. So there are resources around there to kind of think about how do we alter this, but keep it as close to it as we can. So that idea of using a children's toothpaste, using a very small amount, maybe using a toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride. Good question. So we've talked a good bit about toothpaste. We've talked a little bit about toothbrush. We've talked a little bit about when to brush teeth. The pattern that a lot of people have is brushing your teeth first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Now, first thing in the morning, when you think about when you brush teeth, how many of you brush your teeth before you eat breakfast? Put it in the chat or thumbs up if you brush your teeth before you eat breakfast. So there are many people who brush their teeth before. How many people wait and brush their teeth after they ate breakfast? So there's also a lot of people that do that. Some of you may do before and after. But if I had just gotten up and you want me to brush my teeth because we're already in the bedroom and it's close to the bathroom and I have to go in there anyway to to empty my bladder before I go about my day, while we're in here, let's go ahead and check this box. And that is for our convenience, and that is the way it seems efficient. But how many of you are going to say, the thing that I most associate with dementia is being efficient? Is that true for anybody? If not, we really need to have a private chat, because dementia kind of washes out efficiency. Dementia kind of overrules doing things for efficient reasons. So letting go of that idea that I'm going to do it in the most efficient way, especially when it comes to timing. So the timing, what might need to happen, what might work best for this person is not that we do it at first thing in the morning. But if this person is used to eating their breakfast, then going back upstairs, because you know the other thing that often happens after you eat your breakfast and you have your coffee, elimination. It's a really current, frequent time for people to have their bowel movement. And so they have their breakfast, they go upstairs, they take care of that, and they brush their teeth, and then they move into the rest of their day. But disrupting that pattern can create a lot of artificial conflict. So letting go of that. At night is another time when most people brush their teeth. So really thinking about how do we weave that into that evening time. And the truth is, from a health perspective, that evening brushing is actually more important than that morning brushing. That morning brushing is important for aesthetics and for routine, but for health reasons, that evening brushing is really the piece that's important. So saving some resource and saving some energy and some time for that is gonna be helpful for getting that done. So the when, and some people brush after every meal. That's fine. Just making sure we get it really effectively done in that before bedtime thing. It doesn't have to be before bedtime, like um, immediately before bedtime. It just means after you finish eating and drinking anything but water for the day. So that's the tools, a little bit about the when, and a little bit about moving into the where. Because one of the challenges is doing it in the usual place, not doing it in the usual place. So we talked about bathing, and we explored a lot of challenges and conflict with bathing. So if my emotional response to being in my bathroom is that this is a place where scary, hard things happen, then that might not be the best place for me to brush my teeth. But there's some things that mean I need to brush my teeth. And so having the things that I need at the sink and a mirror are often the pieces that make brushing teeth kind of make sense. That's where we get into a lot of trouble for people who maybe getting in and out of the bathroom creates a lot of challenge. Maybe people who are having a lot of mobility stuff, is we try to assist them with brushing their teeth in places where they would never brush their teeth. I would never brush my teeth in the bed. I would never brush my teeth in my living room or floss my teeth. I know some people do that, but I think that's gross and disgusting. So, or in the car, don't floss your teeth in the car. That's nasty. Don't do that at the stoplight. That's just gross. So the idea of if we're going, if getting to the bathroom and that is so exhausting that it's just more trouble than it's worth, if we can try to replicate some of those things where it is going to happen. So maybe if I'm sitting at a table, if I've got a mirror in front of me and my things, it makes it feel more like where I should brush my teeth. Because that's one of the things we notice most about the bathroom is kind of, it's like living in Zoom land where you're constantly looking at your face. So maybe you want to start helping people brush their teeth on Zoom, because then you're just staring at your face. Maybe that will work for people. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. So the other piece that we were going to talk about, thinking about issues that are important to the person, are the how do you brush your teeth? Because everybody just start brushing your teeth like you would typically brush your teeth. So everybody just kind of brush your teeth and what you'll find is everybody got a little bit of a different pattern. So I kind of go from the sides to the front to the side, and then those molar surfaces, and then I do that whole thing again, all those molar surfaces, and then I do the insides, and then I come back and do the front again. Everybody's got their own little pattern, and that's one of the pieces that becomes a real challenge for replicating that. So I encourage you, if you've got somebody living with dementia in your life who is still able to brush their own teeth, I encourage you to kind of discreetly videotape them brushing their own teeth. and have that pattern of what do they brush first and then next and then next. So we've got that for getting that pattern back in place. So, what's the pattern of brushing their teeth? And also, most of us brush our teeth much harder than is really healthy for our teeth and for our gums. The challenge is if we go with a lighter touch, it can feel kind of ticklish. So finding that balance of how much, how hard we're going to brush the person's teeth is really a big deal. How fast do you brush? Because when we're brushing someone else's teeth, we tend to go much slower than when we're brushing our own teeth. And then how do we do it with an electric toothbrush adds on a whole nother level of question and confusing. So that's a little bit about the person. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and we'll move on to things that are important about our strategy. So we're talking about show, then tell, then touch. So say it with me. Show, then tell, then touch. And say it again. Show, then tell, then touch. The challenge of this is many of us, when we get into that cueing the person living with dementia, is we go a lot more telling than we do showing. So we think about showing is pretty much giving people a chance to know what we want them to do, based on what's there. So I did a project at Duke. We were working with brushing teeth with people who were mild cognitive impairment into early dementia. We were working on how do we get people to keep these patterns that they've got, add in some new ones if we can. But one of the things that we learned is if it's there, people do it. So one family actually taped on Sunday night. They would go in and they would tape 7 floss sticks on the mirror. Clean ones, not dirty ones, but clean ones. They would tape 7 floss sticks on the mirror and they put a day of the week beside it. So the person would go in, they'd take their floss stick and they'd floss that day. They didn't have to be reminded because it was there. I had another family who got a big they had a huge mirror. So they got a big desk calendar and they used kind of like the sticky note glue stuff that you can stick something to and then pull it off of paper, and put floss sticks up for the week so they could pull those off and use them. Because if the person saw it, they would do it. But if they don't see it, then they won't do it. So thinking about giving people visual cues. So maybe I don't have to say, now, Lisa, have you brushed your teeth? Now, Lisa, did you brush your teeth? Because you know you need to brush your teeth. It's really important. You're not going to be healthy if you don't brush your teeth. Now, Lisa, did you brush? Okay, she's given me the stop sign. Instead, what I might need to do is just hold up my toothbrush. And that might be enough for her to go, oh, brush my teeth. And so then I might have to walk with her to make sure she gets there, that other things don't distract. I might actually have 4 of these toothbrushes because we might need to, between the kitchen after breakfast to getting to the bathroom upstairs, there are all kinds of interesting obstacle course kind of experiences. So I might need to have multiple of them so I can bring it back to the front of her attention with, didn't you forget? And I might actually need to do that kind of visual cueing that way. So show her something. While she's brushing her teeth, I might actually need to show her the pieces that she's missed. So I'm in the bathroom with her. I'm brushing my teeth while she's brushing her teeth. She skipped some surfaces, so I might go, Lisa, and give her that visual cue that she needs to do those molar surfaces. I don't have to tell her, I just have to give her this visual cue to remind her of what to do. So that's showing the person. With the cueing that really makes sense, is thinking about using the words that are really specific and important. So I want to cue her or cue my person by either doing an invitation or offering an option. So that means I get away from the yes, no questions. Because if I ask anybody, do you want to brush your teeth? The answer is probably going to be, no, that is truly not what I want to do. No, not thinking that's a good thing. This that I'm doing right now is so much better than what you want me to do. It requires a different place. No, I'm good. You go on, knock yourself out, have a fun time. So I'm not going to ask those yes, no questions. I'm going to either do an invitation, and the invitation is something like, let's go ahead and brush our teeth before we go. So let's go ahead and brush our teeth before we do this other thing. So I'm going to use that before thing. Or I'm going to offer an option. So I'm going to say, it's time to brush your teeth. Do you want to use the bathroom downstairs or the bathroom upstairs? It's time to brush your teeth, this toothbrush or this toothbrush. So I'm going to offer options that I don't care about. When I offer somebody a yes, no choice, I'm offering them an option, but it's not an option that I can put up or tolerate with. So, and Lisa kind of did the preview that we are going to brush Chimchar's teeth. You already kind of figured that out because I have a toothbrush with me. So let's look at how I use this hand under hand technique in toothbrushing. So I've got my person here. He's a little floppy today. I think I need to reinforce him a little bit. It isn't going to take long because he's only got 2 teeth. But the important part of this, come on, Chimchar, wake up. The important pieces of this is where we are. So we're in a place that's got a mirror, so my person I'm helping can see themselves. Because one of the things that someone said is they don't know what's coming. And truthfully, if I'm just doing this, that person really doesn't know what's coming at them. And the human response when that happens is to flinch and pull away. That's not a dementia response. That's a human response, is to flinch and pull away when something happens like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake hands. I'm going to shift into the hand under hand. I'm going to put the tool in my hand like I would always use a toothbrush. So if you take this away, this is how I would use a toothbrush. I actually am going to be more like this, but for this, I'm going to have to do more like holding a pencil or holding a utensil, because this grip, how I would usually brush my teeth, doesn't give my person a good angle. So I'm going to hold my toothbrush like I'm holding a pencil or like I'm holding a spoon. This is going to be moving. This hand is going to be moving and doing stuff. So this hand is not going to move. I'm going to put this hand on my person's shoulder, which means I'm going to already have the toothpaste, the water on the toothbrush. I'm going to have this completely ready. This hand doesn't move. I'm here so my person can kind of see me, and so they can kind of see the mirror if that would be their preference. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my mouth. And when I open my mouth, what is very likely to happen to the person whose mouth I'm brushing? They're very likely to open their mouths as well. So I'm going to open my mouth. My Chimchar is going to open his mouth, and then I'm going to start brushing. I'm going to start brushing in a couple of different options, using a couple of different options. If I know my person's preference, if he's kind of telling me his preference because of the way he's moving or what he's doing, I'm going to do that. Otherwise, where I'm going to start with the molar surface. And the reason I'm going to start with the molar surface is because that's the least irritating. That gets the least kind of, interference with the gum, messing with the side of my mouth. The molar surface is the least uncomfortable. So I'm going to start with those molar surfaces, and I'm going to start with the bottom because then the toothpaste is kind of forming like that. I'm going to do here. So all I have to do in this position is rotate the toothbrush in my fingers. Oops, that's gross. My toothbrush has a hair on it. I'm going to brush like this. I'm going to brush like this. Then I'm going to take it out and give my person a chance to respond. Give him a chance to recover. Then I'm going to go chimchar. Then I'm going to start brushing some of those other surfaces, kind of finishing with some of these surfaces. And I'm doing it mostly with my fingers and not with my whole hand. So I'm doing most of the work using my fine motor with the toothbrush in my hand and not doing a lot of this kind of scrubbing kind of stuff. And that's for a couple of reasons. The truth is we should all be doing this with our brushing. We should all be brushing our teeth, like this. And that scrubbing thing, all that scrubbing does is really make your gums recede. So actually, brushing your teeth like this using the fine motor is much healthier. So I'm going to do that with my chimchar, getting all of the surfaces. And then I'm going to back off and give him a chance. So I'm not going to try to make this one smooth thing like I do with my own teeth. I'm going to do something and then back off and give him a chance to recover. I'm going to do something, an area, I'm going to back off, I'm going to give him a chance to recover. I'm going to do something, I'm going to back off, give him a chance to recover. Because what happens when I do that is it kind of moves from, instead of escalating, to this. So I don't like having this toothbrush. Now I've got some moment to, I don't like having this toothbrush. Now I've got a moment to breathe. I don't like having this. Now I've got a moment to breathe. I'm watching for how much toothpaste is kind of forming. Hopefully I didn't use much toothpaste and I used something that doesn't foam all up like you've got rabies. And so it's easier for the person to kind of respond and to manage that. I'm going to give him a chance to spit. I'm going to give him a chance to spit. I can, from here, I can actually lean him forward over the sink, which will kind of cue him to spit. So if I do this hand, I kind of move him forward. He's going to see the bowl there, and he's going to spit. And or more than likely let it run out. That's kind of that nexting kind of thing, that if I lean him over the bowl, he's got something gross in his mouth. The next thing that kind of logistically happens is to spit. So that's part of using that what happens next kind of approach. So I don't want, what we tend to do is get in a big hurry. And so I'm going to rush it, and I've got to get it all done. His mouth is still going to be there tomorrow. So it might be what I do is I focus on a different part of his mouth every day. So maybe Mondays, my focus is on the molars. Maybe Tuesday, my focus is on the outside. Maybe Wednesday, my focus is on the inside. And then I repeat that. Maybe a couple of days a week, my focus is really on flossing more than brushing because that's really important. So maybe that's it. And then following with whatever the person's routine is, and then finally finishing with something that changes it from being this uncomfortable, awkward, unpleasant experience to something that really brings an emotional positivity about it. So I want to finish with, oh, I love you so much, and a hug. I might not really love him. It's been really hard work, but I want to finish in that positive, oh, you look great. You deserve a big kiss now. Or, I love kissing that clean mouth. something that ends it on a positive note, and not giving chocolate because that kind of spoils the whole process of brushing your teeth. But something that ends it so we're together, we're connected, we're working on it. So it might be singing something, it might be some nice music in the background, and when the song is over, we go to something else, and now we dance for that next song. So maybe we put a song on that's a 3-minute song. This is our teeth brushing song. Now we move to another song, and we dance for a minute, or we sing together for a minute, or we something together for a minute. If your person likes to sing that toothbrushing song, might need to be an instrumental song. Maybe we can have who is it who plays? Is it Cheryl who plays? We can get Cheryl to record something, a 3-minute toothbrushing song for us, that's all instrumental, so the person's not trying to sing during it. So I see there's a question. Let's kind of finish up just the end of this. Oops, I forgot to bring you with me. Just one little bit about the environment. So, I've mentioned a couple times about having a mirror. Familiar things. Having a mirror means I'm supposed to do something to myself often. So having the things around that give those visual cues, things like the toothbrush and the toothpaste, or if you don't want the person to use the toothpaste because you've already got it on there, having that out of sight. Having things like the floss there. So if they want to floss first, they can do that. There are no real rules. The two things that I added are lighting, because older people often have trouble seeing in darker spaces. And the one wonderful thing about most bathrooms is lighting tends to not be as much of a problem in bathrooms as it is in lots of other rooms. So making sure there's enough light to see what you're doing. And then that idea of privacy. I never brush my teeth with somebody in the room with me. So it feels awkward and uncomfortable. So if you're going to be cueing, maybe cueing from a space where the person can see you, but maybe you aren't reflected in the mirror as well. So the person's got that little bit of privacy for themselves in the mirror. Maybe it works better to have it so they can see you in the mirror. So you're cueing yourself in the mirror instead of being in their face cueing them in the mirror. What's distracting? I should take a before and after picture of my bathroom cabinet because I'm a product junkie and I have all kinds of stuff on my counter in my bathroom. It would not be where I would bring somebody living with dementia to brush their teeth. So getting rid of all the clutter, thinking about things like noise. I said something about music. Maybe that works for some people. Maybe that doesn't work for some people. Noise is often a distractor. So if I'm trying to brush my teeth, it's kind of challenging and difficult. We're connected, and then I hear somebody talking in the background. That can be enough to really derail me and enough to really make it not work for me. And then the emotional memories of how complicated is it every time that we go to brush teeth, we wind up feeling like failures. It's not fun. It's uncomfortable physically. It's uncomfortable emotionally, and it's uncomfortable in this environment. Begins to be a place where I don't feel safe and I don't feel like I want to be here, like this is a good place for me to be. Now, this is a slide you've seen before. Thinking about the gems and thinking about what kinds of cueing might people need. And sapphires, those of us, we just need to be shown. And that might mean if I go and I'm spending the weekend at Lisa's house, she needs to show me where I go to brush my teeth. She needs to kind of show me where I can put my stuff. It's just a show thing. For diamonds, those people who are living in the present, most of the time showing is enough for them too. And the telling needs to really, really, really avoid telling. Now, you said you brushed your teeth. Oh, you said you brushed your teeth, but I went in there and I checked your toothbrush and it's dry. Now, who does that? parents do that to their little kids. And this is not, little kids don't like it. It just makes kids lie. It doesn't make them go, yeah, you're right, I didn't brush my teeth and I lied to you about it. It just makes them come up with more and more excuses and all these convoluted things. That kind of thing doesn't work. So the showing, the telling's got to be really as an invitation. For the emeralds who are living in the past, they're going to need a different kind of showing. They might actually need to imitate you as you're brushing your teeth, and they might actually follow. That's where we also start really simplifying how much of this are we going to expect them to be able to do? Because if I have that person using the skill to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, I'm probably going to wind up with way too much toothpaste. The companies will be happy, but their mouth will not, and their gut will not. So I might have way too much. If I have that already prepared, then that's steps that they really don't have to waste time and energy, effort, residual doing, resources doing. So they can just pick up. I hand them the toothbrush, it's got the toothpaste on it, they can just pick up and do. With the amber people who are living in the moment, they are going to need some showing, some telling, very small, 2 or 3 words at a time here with a visual cue. They may also need some actual hands-on touching, because they might take the toothbrush and might actually try to brush their hair with it. It's very common. It's a change called agnosia. It means they don't really know what to do with that tool. It's a brush, it's got a handle, it's in the bathroom. So they might brush their hair. It's a brush, it's got a handle, it's in the bathroom. They might try to scrub the toilet. People at the Ruby state are going to really need that hands-on helping to really get through it. And that's when we start really prioritizing what are the pieces that are most important for health. And so maybe we don't take it on twice a day, maybe we take it on in the evening. Or maybe we give it the more of an effort in the evening, not take it on, that's a bad term. And for people who are at the pearl state, they still need their teeth clean, their mouth clean. That's when I might go to some of the things that are easier, like I might actually use my finger with a cloth if the person will let me do that. I might actually be doing something like that instead of using a brush. Maybe I won't. Maybe the person still has that bite, so maybe I don't do that. But that's kind of knowing your person. You'll notice that the toothbrush that I used is actually a children's toothbrush. Um, and I use this because the bristles tend to be really soft, and because the head is smaller, which and the handle is smaller, which just makes it easier for me to use. So some of those modifications for people as we get more involved with helping, it's kind of finding that balance between doing something that is familiar to them versus doing something that is adapted to the current situation and what's really going on for them now. So I did see one question in the chat. If the person only tolerates a minute or less, and all kinds of exclamation points here and capital letters. There's a high distress about this. Um, yeah, you do what you can do. And that's, if what you can do is a minute, you can actually do a lot in a minute. I'd rather do a minute and not have it escalate up to a really high level of intensity than force it, force it, force it. So that's where you might do, if I've only got a minute, I can do a minute, changing your focus every day. So you get all of those parts done over the period of a week. Or you get the parts, more buildup tends to happen in the front. So maybe you focus on the front every day and then try a different part each time of a different days of the week. But yeah, you do the best you can. This is not a like a prescription. You know, it's not like do this, do this, do this. And I apologize if it sounded like do this, do this, do this. These are pieces that you can take and a la carte make what works for you and your person, and doing the best you can, knowing that that person living with dementia is doing the best they can. Cheryl said, what about getting dentures in and out? And there actually is some videotape with George. Lisa, can you talk about how, do you know how people can access that, or is that something that we don't have that? Okay. So with dentures, what you can do with dentures is actually with this hand under hand is actually get my person to open her mouth, open, I made it a her now, open her mouth, go, ah, and then I take her hand with me, and then I break, the thing about dentures is to pull them down and break that seal, and then pull them out and clean them. And when you put them back in, it's the same way, ah, and you put them in. The important thing there is to think about, did the person put the top in or the bottom in first, and play around with that a little bit and see which they seem to respond to best, because that pattern is really important for people. If people are used to putting their top ones in and then we're putting their bottom ones in first, it just doesn't feel right for them. So kind of experimenting with that, playing back and forth with that, figuring out what kind of works best for that person about dentures. And the other thing about dentures is making sure you've got padding down, because it's not uncommon for them to slide out of your hand. So I make sure I've got a towel down in the sink and just some backup kind of things. Another one, flossing. Flossing is hard. And so there are a lot of, that's where equipment can sometimes be helpful. Flossing sticks are actually much easier to use than strings of floss. So it's, I wish I brought one down. It's the same thing. I'll use my hand underhand, get the person to ah, and then use those flossing sticks. The dental brushes work great as well. I was going to mention that. They're these little toothbrush things, these bristly things that you don't have to go down the teeth. You just go into near the gum into that, and those can work really, really well. The other thing that I would go ahead, and if you've got somebody who's pretty, yeah, there is a floss. I hope you don't use that at your desk, because that's gross. You already know my opinion about that. I know you don't. Um, so things like water picks and air picks and things like that. So I can't see it, Lisa. I'm sorry. I know you're trying to show me. Yeah, those floss sticks are really good. The dental brushes are really good. Those Christmas tree looking ones are really helpful. So those can be good. That's when using those tools can be really helpful. Using a water pick, or using a rinse that can help cut down on some of the bacteria and plaque. It might be that using a dental rinse or a dental wash might be, if you can't get the flossing done, that's better than not getting anything done. So that might be where you want to go with that. So thanks for bringing those questions and suggestions up. We've got a couple of minutes left. If anybody has another question or another situation or experience with severe inflammation and not, consider yeast. So consider that it might not be something from plaque. It really might be another condition. When people get really pushing me away, I really look for something that might be causing pain in their mouth. And it might be something about their tooth or their gums, but it could also be something that's going on with their jaw. You know, inflammation in the joint of the jaw could be making it really uncomfortable for them to open their mouth and to go through some of those movements. So thinking about, is it something about their jaw? Is it something about their mouth or their teeth? but keeping all of those pieces in mind can be really helpful. So if they're not seeing any, I want to share one more um, um, slide, and it's this idea that going back to this very systematic way of thinking about what could be going on. So what is really the problem? Is the problem really she doesn't want to brush her teeth, or is the problem that it's scary and uncomfortable? It's not that she doesn't want to, it's that the experience is really bad. Think about the person. How did they used to do this? And what kinds of things might make that more normal? Come up with that possible. So maybe it's about the toothpaste tastes awful, or maybe it's about this really isn't her routine. Come up with a plan, practice it, and then whatever works, holds on to it and pass on to the other people involved with the person's life. And what doesn't work, let go of it, revise, try something different. Because when I was in nursing school, one of the hardest things that we did was brush each other's teeth. I mean, not hard technically, but most uncomfortable kinds of things is to have someone else brush your teeth. It's the pressure isn't right, the pattern isn't right. It's just really, really uncomfortable. So kind of looking at it from that perspective of that person living with dementia and doing some validation. This is really hard. I am so sorry. I know you hate this. I can't wait till this is over so we can dance. We're going to dance 1 minute or 3 minutes when it comes to this, and kind of having that something positive to look forward. Someone said the floss picks work well, and I think those do. Sometimes Lisa, can you put the floss pick back up again? So sometimes what I've had to do is give that handle a little bit more to hang on to. So there are these things that I found online that you can use. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. There are things that they sell online for metal hair barrettes that are these cushiony, kind of foamy kinds of things that you put onto the hair barrettes to keep them from tearing your hair. And they're kind of like pool noodles, but they're about as big as your finger. But you can put those around the pick, and it gives the person something better to hold on to than, because when fine motor starts to become a problem, holding on to that little pick with the thin kind of thing can be more complicated. So I guess that's my last tip for the day. So thank you for coming through and being part of this series. If there are things that you would like more of or different of, reach out to Lisa. If you've got some questions about some of the things that we talked about, reach out to Lisa. If there's some issues that you would like different or more of, reach out to Lisa. I appreciate your time putting things in the chat, interacting with me. Hope you found something new in this. And I will turn it back over to Lisa.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I did want to mention that Melanie, we have plans for Melanie to do this again in the spring. But if you have other topics you'd like to hear from her, we will be sending you a link to an evaluation. Please feel free to write in there other topics you'd like to hear from Melanie. And if we get some good responses, we can do that sooner rather than later. We love your ideas and your suggestions. If you have specific questions you didn't get to ask today, please feel free to email me. You can reply back when we send you these emails about this information, and I'll pass those along to Melanie, and we'll get those answers for you. But we thank you all so much for joining us in this series. Thank you so much, Melanie, for your expertise and your time. We really appreciate you sharing your insight with us. And Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great day, and thank you for being so dedicated to great dementia care.